I'm in the game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap
You don't want
circles
no
around.
smoke. He enjoying that 150 million, 200 million he done
Okay
made.
then, so then leave me alone while I'm on the field.
You was effing with him. He wasn't bothering you.
They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them know.
Jim Jones was never better than Nas. Jim Jones will never be better than Nas. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Nas fan. I love Dipset. I love the Diplomats. I love Bird Gang. But we not about to start rewriting history because Jim Jones got confidence.
Jones claimed that his influence on Shannon Sharpe's curriculum was greater than NAS. Rather than replying with a post or naming particular people, 50 Cent chose to let the streets do the math when he said that everything had changed by posting an old federal transcript on Instagram. Fan discovery of old wiretap clips is now underway. To the industry, 50 is a sort of reminder of who is really above the law and the reasons why some people have avoided punishment. Jim reappears at the gym talking about diss tracks and shouting back as if he were preparing for combat in Rikers. It is possible that Jim started this to make a point, but he may have started something considerably deeper than songs because of their history, which began in 2002 when NAS called Cameron's record whack without offering an explanation. Jim Jones's mention of NAS always has a noteworthy impact, triggered Dipset to go into full assault mode. However, they did not start their argument yesterday. Mayhem ensued when Jim Jones rushed in headfirst. On Mixtape Hez, he thought Dipet was making fun of Jim, so he threatened to whip NAS, even though he kept the tension constant in songs like We Fly High and It's More Than Music. There is a catch. Jim's opinion of NAS has never been negative, and he has always liked him.
I never got to, did I ever got to see Nas? I never got to sit down and have a conversation with Nas and things like that. I had called you about it and things like that. That was like, still one of the people that I never got to have a conversation throughout my history of rap and things like that. I think I would love to have a conversation with Nas. I wouldn't know if he knows it, but Nas was one of my all-time favorite rappers coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that, like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before anybody.
But when Jim went on Fat Joe's podcast with Jadakiss, the admiration swiftly turned to animosity as he tried to stir things up.
Recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
that's my young boy
big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying, Nas is like a god.
In my era.
Jim wanted to add more information on this topic, but he wasn't done yet, and it may have been omitted from the timeline.
Right, Nas. But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
Yes.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan, period. I'd never take that away from him, but then as I got in the game, you gotta realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
Unexpectedly, he then mocked one of the most rash decisions in contemporary hip-hop history.
I came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them know.
You know what I mean?
A lot
Like,
of them know.
Jim was not stuttering but doubling down. In addition to asserting his newfound prominence, Jim positioned himself as more powerful than Nas of Queensbridge, the man behind God's Son, King's Disease, and Elmanic, who is still in his 40s and still sells at Madison Square Garden.
no, me, Jim Jones. No Diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them entries and and I'm not taking nothing away from nobody, but I hear the comparisons and then be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this about the industry. I've been putting on.
In addition to creating controversy, that interview completely upended everything and triggered the problem before the podcast dust had even settled. Jim Jones was wearing his nightcap, and Shannon Sharpe was ready to go all out. In an attempt to explain the comments, he appeared on the show alongside Shannon and Chado Cinco Johnson, but instead he fueled the fire. The first thing he said was that Shannon would no longer put up with him.
Can I ask you a question, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little.
However, something he said next led several people to cut the show short.
Way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type of. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that bullshit.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit.
It seems like Jim has finished comparing resumes, but he always comes up with something winning. He started off by bringing up the previous rivalry between Dipset and NAS from the early 2000s, in which he triumphed over NAS and Impact but claimed to be a bigger NAS fan. He started to skirt the subject by referring to NAS's impact on fashion and describing him as one of the most fashionable individuals ever. But he kept coming back to the same conclusion. NAS doesn't have the same influence on the streets as he has.
Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like,
Ain't no shame in that. There a lot of mofos came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit like that.
Shannon wasn't having it.
Bro, you been in this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
Y'all
but look how you dress. Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. And the things that we listen to.
I can be in the church house. You can't influence Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, y'all know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing enough.
Jim was also so angry that he started to make fun of Shannon's outfit.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Nobody from Dipset gonna take you over Nas. Nobody from the Diplomats but you.
Hold on, Jim. Hold on.
That shirt too tight.
Hold on.
Jim. You want to go back to I Really Mean It? I Really Mean It started. We could go back to the history, bro.
For you to even say that.
Bro. Now I saw Shannon and Jim fighting.
I'm still playing at a high level. You check my record, I'm still playing at a high level. I'm rapping at a high level. You better check my stats, bro. I will run circles around Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. Right now, I will run Saturn around Nas right now rapping.
Jim's revelation that Shannon was only using him for views caused Unc to rage.
This is the biggest podcast you ever been on. Hold on. We off topic. Hold on. This is what I do. You see you in your feelings? When you get big, you get invited to Club Shay Shay.
This is what I do.
Nas get invited to Club Shay Shay.
But as soon as Jim told Shannon Sharp that he was superior to Nas, he immediately changed his role from podcast host to rival. Shannon would even take Jim to the gym if he so desired. Shannon pushed his bars on himself.
You gotta start buying baggy clothes, big fella. You too big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do
Since
that.
You like to talk that ish. Now come see me in the gym.
We talking about working out. What we talking about? Working out or strength? What we talking about? Working out or strength?
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about
Since you got money,
and we talking about
put your money where your mouth feels.
So you talking about working out? I burn
stacks.
You talking about working out? I burn you. You talking about working out or strength? Because you probably can lift a lot more than me.
Whatever.
You're bigger than me. You're probably stronger than me. But if you talk about working out, I burn you.
This ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You are doing good when you talk about Nas and Jada. You don't want to see this.
Rather than simply responding to 50, he tried to use the conversation as an opportunity to brag in the gym and challenge Shannon to a workout war, demonstrating his continued relevance and mastery in a new niche. Despite Jim's continued concentration on gym tricks, 50 had already moved behind the scenes, but that iconic label was still prominently displayed in the background. All of this was happening while the internet was using the data that a Shannon did what Jada and Fitzjoe should have done ... exclaimed one fan as the former NFL Hall of Famer suddenly gave NAS the benefit of the doubt. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, you naive Shane Jones. What made them so silent during the interview considering the facts? 50, on the other hand, had been watching the spectacle in the background and wasn't laughing. But it became petty when supporters played the amusing video again just as everyone said it was finished.
When it got
Yo, honestly, I can't, like, if it was like Jim Jones, imagine putting a pen to paper to write about him. He was so nice. He was so nice about him. How did you do that? What's the first sentence? What the fuck do you write about him? I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss record. Like, I'm like, yo. The used to have so nervous was like B.I.G., Pac, right? Even Cannabis, like Eminem, he'd have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But these Jim Jones, like, I mean, I respect you getting your money. You're like, exactly, right?
Disdain. 50 Cent decided to replicate one of the most controversial stories in hip-hop history after hearing Jim claimed that he was superior to NAS. He then called Jim Individual 1, smiled, and took a few receipts out of his bottomless petty library. There was only one caption that had the internet in a frenzy, revealing that someone else was watching everything from the shadows while NAS said nothing and Shannon was acting mysteriously. Individual 1 is more than just a nickname. The federal label was lifted straight from a 2018 Tekashi 69 wiretap. Jim Jones, who was not identified in court but was mentioned as such, was allegedly included in a phone call that was aired during Tekashi's 9 Trey Bloods trial. It has been reported that during that call, someone instructed gang members to harm Tekashi for leaving the set. Jim's voice was never formally verified in court, and he was never charged, but that moment was not lost on the street bloggers and 50. As of right now, Jim is trying to get more people to listen to his show and to fight 50. He found the perfect chance to let everyone know that he is still widely discussed on the streets today. Having quickly deleted the meme from his Instagram collection with the message, "So that's why they ain't pull him in," he then posted it back. "Don't tell me that." Genie, Tekashi's case was updated by the Shade Room in 2019. According to a reliable courtroom reporter, 50 felt compelled to write about Tekashi's alleged reference to Jim Jones as a member of 9 Trey. After then, there was the famous film of 50 terrified people
hiding out in Texas. Please, whatever you do, don't tell them I'm in San Antonio. Don't tell them I'm staying at the Four Seasons. Don't tell them, please don't tell them, because it's just so much pressure on me right now. I don't know what to do.
I'm afraid for my life. I mean, Jimmy is gang, he said. Jimmy winced while the internet giggled. Things go wrong though, because this incident with NAS gave 50 the perfect excuse to start dragging Jim about again after years of hostility. 50 Cent summoned Jim Jones and Jules Santana on stage at a 2007 G-Unit performance because Dipset was having internal problems. Seeing this as obvious disrespect, Cameron became agitated. Even though Tekashi 69 was already breaking apart behind the scenes, prosecutors identified Jim Jones as an individual in a wiretapped phone call they aired during the group's federal prosecution in 2019. Although Jim was never charged, the term was enforced and online snitching accusations were common. 50 posts were made in all, and Jim didn't say anything for 1 minute. Dipset wrote a somber message in a caption of the old Bird Gan picture he shared. "Why do you lie so much? I'm going to return to male matrix to rest until someone tell Shannon Sharp, don't start ducking this challenge now." No backwards, Jim captioned another sexy workout shot. "Will you come across as a podcaster, or will you act as though you live by your values? Primarily due to my sneakers being tied. Since you openly challenged me, you might as well do the assignment, champion." When he brought up his close friend doing more than 11 years in prison on racketeering charges and male matrix, it was a jab that suggested 50 was making things up and lived in a fantasy world. In response, Ochinko said, "I don't want to do it in." During Jim's preparations for the fight, 50 trolled from the stand. On social media, Jim also posted, "You've already lost if you're 40 years of age or older and fighting with me over. Nez, every time you guys go viral, you fall for it and I get more streams. Here's a marketing lesson for you older artists." Stuck in the past and irritated by the current state of affairs, then the caption encapsulated it all. "In addition, I will listen to any artists from my era. Entry to the booth requires cash. Because this game is not free. Regardless of your opinion, we work in the field every day. The fact that Jim persisted in challenging, baiting, and asserting his bigger influence while NAS stayed silent is ridiculous. However, NS's entry into the game would be more of a lyrical choice than a straightforward punch, even though fans are criticizing Jim.
Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally, it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening, bro.